Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday.
August 27th. And tonight we are talking about consciousness.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Can't.
Yeah, we are.
But before we dive in, you had a few things that you refused to show me earlier that you were gonna.
Oh, are we there already?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
you said before we dove in, that's what we were going to do.
Okay, so before we get into our night on consciousness, by the way, for everyone, I mean, we're talking quantum, we're talking the meaning of consciousness, religions, or mysticisms, or we're covering all of consciousness.
All of the things. So this is going to be like a 4-part series that we're going to do in 4 parts. So tonight we are just discussing what is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Where does it come from? What does it mean to be conscious?
Right.
How is it connected to the human experience?
And before we get to that, we have a couple things that we should just go over because there's always some tidbits of things. So
I haven't looked at any weird news this week, so everything that you have is going to be a surprise for me.
So I'm entirely not going to put this on screen for anyone. We were just talking Neanderthals.
Yeah.
We were discussing they had bigger brains, they had bigger body, they had denser bones and more muscles and bigger, more density, right. More powerful. Just straight up stronger, bigger brains.
These are right. Physically, and so what was the question you asked me earlier?
Well, I asked you if all those things are physiologically true. Right. So would they be dumber and what would they, do you think the images you're given are accurate then to what they're like?
Or the stories that were told, I don't know.
Well, they're always banging rocks and somehow they can make loincloths or like little, basically flaps for their butts.
I mean, I guess a bigger brain doesn't necessarily equate to higher intelligence, right?
No, you're right. I mean,
so just because they had bigger brains doesn't mean that they had a higher IQs.
Right. So perhaps, we have these windows of Neanderthals that are like some of the bones are dating as early as 30, 50,000 years ago. And then we have the Neanderthal gene that's in the human race that some people show up with having it. But then we have these skulls that are 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 years old. Mm-hmm. So then there's clearly a longevity of this species. So then the question becomes, okay, if maybe they were around during the megalithic builder era, mm-hmm. or the Sumerian kings list, clearly, you have, 200-something thousand years of kings. So these Neanderthals existed. So are they responsible for some of the sciences? Are they responsible for some of the megalithic constructions? Are they in pre-dynastic history? Are they, were they the builders of Stonehenge? Just saying, maybe. But they got kicked into some sort of maybe they had a catastrophe of their own. So maybe
what happened? That was about to be my next question. What happened to them?
I always try to equate everything to what were the biggest. So I haven't dug entirely in it. We don't know how many tsunamis there were, right? Mm-hmm. We don't even know how many meteoric impacts there are because it wasn't until I was working on my book and they're like, oh, hey, Greenland has a 19-mile diameter crater. Oop. That looked like a planet killer. That looked like a dinosaur killer.
Right.
So it's like, oh. And then they're like, oh, 50 million years ago, Greenland was, 0.0 at. And there's a thing with the wobble of the Earth. And in the antiquity of 50 million years, it's like, okay, well, that's not that far out of billions of years on the planet, right? Mm-hmm. And we keep pushing back the age of the planet. So then the question is, okay, fine. What happens then at 50 million years? How much would an impact like that deviate the planet or the poles? Mm-hmm. Or so super catastrophic. But then what kind of impact in 300,000 years? Because 50 million years is a long time before 300,000 years. But in the last times that Neanderthal we keep finding them in caves and they seem to have simple tools. So what would make a bigger brained, stronger human thing live simply? That's the thing, is like, so what initial thing between 50,000 years ago and 50 million years ago, what initial thing made Neanderthal not either come out of their, their crap kicking, or what massive
evolve, or there had to be some sort of catastrophe, or if there was some sort of a mass, like an epidemic or something.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but wouldn't that have?
That's an awful idea, but
I know, but wouldn't that be something that we would have discovered? We would know that maybe there was a disease that wiped them off. Wouldn't
you inspire a rabbit trail
of the fossils and bones that we have found from them? You don't think that there would be some sort of evidence or remains of?
So in Europe, when they dig up people, Middle Ages, medieval. So they find frequently what appears to be people that have died from the Black Plague, or mass wars. They find mass burial pits. I mean, all the way up to World War II, but to way back, Roman, Greco-Roman, whatever. They find those things. However, pathogens. What do we do with? Here's the thing: we don't know all the pathogens that existed in any one time period, right? We can find flora, fauna, bones, things like that. We can see, was it TB or something? There's like indicators within just the bone, just the bone structures. We can say that, oh, this person was handicapped. This person had a devastating injury. Oh, this looks like, oh yeah, there's an arrowhead still stuck. They can figure some basic things out. But when they're like, this person had like dino AIDS, they can't tell that. We don't have all the pathogens down, right? So this
dino AIDS.
Yeah, dino AIDS. I just made that up.
I figured that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like maybe they got it because somebody
was good.
Maybe there's a million ways you could have got it. Maybe it had nothing to do with how you'd get the other one. Maybe it had to do with like it got.
It's okay. Moving on.
Okay, I had a lot of cool ideas right there about how dino AIDS happened.
I know, right?
And then,
but before we jump in that rabbit hole,
right? So before that rabbit hole, pathogens. Here's the thing: we interviewed Brad Olson a while ago, which people should look for on ArchaeoX.
Right.
Okay. Brad loves to talk about how he's been to Antarctica, right? And he took that schooner. But remember, there was that moment where they're like, one day we were having dinner and they took a little skiff out. They literally hacked off a 30,000-year-old or longer piece of ice, the ice for their drinks for the evening. Do you see a problem with that?
So what happens if they drink polio or
like 30,000-year-old polio?
Yeah.
Or
the Black Plague.
Or some other
Spanish
version of
flu.
dino AIDS.
Yeah,
Something that some pterodactyl.
We probably shouldn't do that.
I personally think that if I'm ever going to be an advocate for bottled water, now is the time.
And that's saying something.
Yes. Your choice is potential pterodactyl pee, maybe at best.
Or all of the horrible things that are frozen in the ice over eons and eons and eons.
And everything that went on it and then kind of melted into it. And then like how many penguins have stopped there? Yeah. Okay.
So outside of frozen pathogens in people's drinks in Antarctica, what else do we have?
Right. So we're getting off on Neanderthals. It's like, why do they disappear? Or how long have they been around? And because they have bigger brains and everything else. Here's the thing. I don't know if I'm going to let you see the picture first. This is found in Greece. This is what you're looking at for everyone listening is a Neanderthal skull. Kinda. And they found it in a
Go ahead.
They found it in a Greek cave. Now, I could read the title to it, or you could scroll up and read it.
Well, it says it's neither human nor Neanderthal.
Yeah, you could read the title.
Study finds. Oh, the title. Mysterious 300,000-year-old Greek cave skull was neither human nor Neanderthal, study finds. Okay.
Now what?
Discovered attached to the wall of a Petrolona cave in northern Greece in 1960. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this picture before, but I have not seen this article before. And I thought this would be this is just, but it's not Neanderthal and it's not human, but
277,000 years old.
uh-huh.
They don't know how long the skull was in the cave before it began acquiring calcite.
Uh-huh.
But the new estimate, hold on, I'm seeing numbers. I haven't made it down those lines yet, but I'm seeing this number down here and I'm like, what? Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Go for it.
Okay. But the new estimate helps narrow down previous attempts to date the skull, which have ranged from 170,000 to 700,000 years old. What? Why? See, this is what's crazy, is why isn't this, the skull calcite dates back to around 286,000 years ago with a high degree of confidence that it is at least 277,000 years old.
Yep. Now, what do you do?
I can't see 2 points. I'm just like these links at the bottom of this article. 2.6 million year old stone tools.
Now we're getting all
reveal human. Okay, where's Cremo when you need him?
Yeah.
2.6 million year old stone tools reveal ancient human relatives were forward planning 600,000 years earlier than thought. I can't even put this away.
Okay, that was just okay. So really,
we are right here tonight to talk about consciousness, and we are already chasing extreme human antiquity rabbits straight into the holes they're jumping in.
Right. So going into a completely different direction. All I want to do is put on, yes, for everyone listening, we are going to be doing a podcast with Michael Cremo, and we'll be co-hosting, Kristi and I, and Michael will be co-hosting a new show. It's going to be really exciting in the soon future. Yeah. That's a new word or a series of sentences. Soon future.
Okay, move on to what's going to surprise me next.
Okay, so here's the thing. We just got done for everyone listening. We did a couple parts on, is oil natural or is it abiogenic or biogenic? Yes. Is it man-made or possibly somehow made, or is it just natural, right? So one of the things that we had talked about on that, and this is just something I thought I'd dovetail in on, was we were talking about what would happen if we keep sucking out oil faster than it can self-replicate. Then what happens when we have to make more oil, and then that would lead to more earthquakes or things like
right. If that theory were true, that oil is the lubricant of the earth, right? Of the planet, planetary lubricant.
Which the USGS, U.S. government, this is I just thought this would be interesting because again, we're sucking oil as fast as possible. So volcanic news is there was just a 12-hour eruption in Hawaii where it was spewing lava for 12 hours.
On which island?
Good question.
Is everybody okay?
Halema's Uma'u.
Yes, please say that again.
Boy. Halema Uma'u eruption ended abruptly at 2:52 a.m. August 23rd after 12.6 hours of continuous fountaining. So it is over, and now there's an orange alert. But the point is, it's weak glows and rapid reinflation indicate that another episode is likely in the coming weeks. So the lava flows continuously. Right now it's on a pause. And this is Kilauea, I think, is officially, but it's...
but what's the surprise? I'm waiting for the surprise.
Oh, well, I am just thinking that we should make a point not just to watch and track all volcanic eruptions, but Hawaii is a really good, I think, tectonic point. And I think it would be important for us moving forward as we talk about oil to kind of track specifically Hawaii, not just because it's just generally active. There's lots of active volcanoes, but I think it's a point where a number of plates come together. And I think based on how we're talking more and more about oil, I think we should pay attention more to some of these key points where I think that the tectonic plates are likely under more and more
pressure.
Yeah. And these just whatever, simple thing.
Okay.
So yeah, we can get on with consciousness. I just thought that a random genetically, possibly not human or Neanderthal skull that is at least 300,000 years old would be a good, not alien, / alien / whole other species of human looking skull.
It definitely deserves more conversation. We could probably dedicate just an entire episode to the evolution of humanity, Homo sapiens, and all the ancestors of,
or nearby uncles or
aunts,
aunts.
cousins.
Yeah, other friendly people from places beyond dimensions and portals.
Elders with bigger brains.
Elders with stargates.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I feel like, if we're honest, this is like the crux of all of the things in life. Because I think that, at the end of the day, a lot of the issues in life, a lot of the things that we run into, whether it's really just everything, it boils down to consciousness. Think about if everybody had a really expanded consciousness, if everybody was super awakened with it, right? Would there be as much conflict?
No.
Probably not, right? No. Right. So then the answer to our problems is consciousness. The answer to all of the things: war, greed, power, control, disease, illness, literally like disease and illness, consciousness. That's the remedy. And consciousness answers everything. The more conscious we become, the more healed we are, the happier we are, the healthier we are, the more in alignment we are with each other, with the planet, with all of the things, right?
Well, okay. So while you're listing those things off, and I'm like, that is so sweet and nice. And like, that's what I want to think. Because part of me is like, this is amazing. Then I wonder, what happened to all those super conscious people who built the megalithic ruins? They were conscious. I think they bioengineered us into these synesthesias and these other things where it's like, okay, wait, they were really conscious. So did they just catastrophically get failed on by mega asteroid or multiple mega asteroids over? Again, we have the Klerksdorp spheres puts us at
2.8 billion
to a lot of billions of years of human antiquity, or of more intelligent things walking on the planet that were not just animals. So over all these epochs of time, did we reach a level of consciousness where it's still, again, on one hand, I like to think, oh, we were there and something catastrophic happened in the universe and they couldn't control it and they got mostly annihilated. On the other hand, does it ever cross your mind that maybe their collective consciousness had like maybe an evil side?
How you always go here.
I don't want to.
I didn't even know that's where we were going. I'm trying to track this and I'm just like, where's he going? Where's he going? Of course, it's like, what is the Dr. Evil or whatever, whoever that is? Well, why? Why do we have to go to some like malevolent beings that are here to like, I don't know. Why? Is it because you just strongly believe in duality?
No, I hate that. I want us to all be, I want that consciousness to be a pure, incapable of like negative or selfish. I assume.
Wait hold on. Okay, now I feel like we're just getting completely off script here because we've got a whole outline to follow and we're already done.
No, let's stay on it.
But no, hold on.
Okay.
Because let's talk about duality for a second in regards to consciousness. Okay, so how would, and this just now occurred to me, okay?
I like when you make up stuff.
I know, I'm not making this up. My brain is. So there's a difference between self and me. So, So what if the reason, because how would we even know if you're source and you're pure and you are purely good, right? How would you even know what duality is? How would you even know? So I'm thinking, because in my mind, to in your defense, this is what I'm doing is I'm looking at the counter, right?
Okay.
So I'm thinking, and I come from, as you do too, a purely like a Christian background, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm, of course, like the God and the devil, and there's always this duality and this whatever. We don't want to get too far in that rabbit hole, but so I'm thinking, like, how would, ever's the fall, everybody everybody knows what the fall is.
Okay. Not the one 3 billion years ago or 100,000 years ago.
The original fall of
the one that we
Lucifer.
know of.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. When God cast Lucifer out.
Western religious philosophies. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So we have that. Okay. But how if we look at God the way that we look at God, right? That God is this God is energy. God is okay. So the way that I won't pull you in with me. The way that I look at God.
Yeah, we're in the same dinghy. It's
so
fine.
God is this. The concept of God for me is like it's a constant evolution. And I'm always like bringing in new ideas and thoughts and thinking, yes, that makes sense. That resonates. That doesn't. Right. So for me, God, leaving the church, moving into a more spiritual mindset. I moved from like this. God is this old wise bearded gray-haired man sitting on a throne in the sky passing out judgment to, oh wow, now I understand a little bit more about reality, and I know that that's not the case. And so now I look at it, and then it was my idea of God transformed into this, like it is love and compassion and energy and vibration and frequency and everything, right? In us all, is us all, we are it. It is us, like it is in everything. It flows in every aspect of life and every dimension. It is what everything is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we, in conversations past, have discussed our ideas of God and that God maybe isn't as mature as we thought, that the universe is not as mature as we thought, right? Maybe as the universe expands, it also realizes that it's not as mature. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of expanding, because I myself experienced that, and I'll give you credit in front of the entire whoever is listening and watching, and this will be recorded.
Oh, okay.
One of the great things about being friends with you is I feel like our consciousness varies. Like maybe we're conscious on different levels in different arenas, but I think overall you're probably a little more conscious than I am.
I don't think it's a race.
It's probably not a race, and it's not a competition. But anyways, one of the things that I've noticed is that you're so patient with a lot of things, and you don't say anything because you're super humble about stuff. And so you don't say anything, and you'll just like let me go on, which really makes me feel stupid in retrospect. But you'll just like let me go on and on and on. And then eventually, like it'll be like weeks or months later, something will happen, and I'll be like, oh, damn. Yeah, okay, I get that now. And the whole time you knew. The whole time you knew.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I can't think of anything specific.
Like this happens?
Yes, this happens all the time. And I'm like, he knew like the whole time. And he's just letting me like formulate my own ideas and whatever. And what you're doing is just letting me get there.
Yeah.
On my own, which is super cool, and I appreciate it. But sometimes it makes me feel stupid.
Oh.
It's okay. But anyways,
I had no idea.
But in the process of this, though, I can see how as we expand, we realize that we weren't as expanded as we thought we were. You know what I mean? It's like as you expand your consciousness, along with that comes the awareness of how you were not as expanded as you thought you were. You know what I mean? Like you think you know what you're doing. You think you know what life is about. You think you know how to do it and how to navigate it and function through it. And you have these belief systems, and a lot of it is from, your childhood and programming, just societal conditioning and all of these things. And so you're moving through life thinking that it's like parenting a lot of times. Like we just think we know what we're doing. We really don't have a freaking clue what we're doing. We're just kind of winging it, And then you look back and you're like, as you get older, you would parent your grandkids way differently than you would parent your kids. And that's just evolution, right? That's growth. That's looking back, looking at the way that you parented your kids, thinking like, I would have done X, Y, and Z different because you're more conscious, you're more aware, you're more evolved, whether that's intentional growth or just life experience that helps you evolve. You still evolve, right? Some more than others. But when that happens and you evolve, then you're able to look back at your less evolved self and see that you were less evolved. So wouldn't that be almost kind of like the same thing that we were talking about that the universe does? Like as the universe expands, like because we were talking about how it correlates to our own expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if the universe is expanding, it's directly related to our own conscious expansion, like the collective. So as we expand, the universe expands. And then as the universe expands, it opens up new chapters of infancy, right?
Right.
It's not as mature as we thought. So maybe as we have these experiences and we expand, then the universe is like, oh, I'm not as aware and mature as I thought I was.
Can I ask you a question then about the universe in reference to you as an example for you to speak to the universe?
Yeah.
Okay. So
go ahead.
So the universe this is within the dialogue of we've discussed the universe is ever expanding into this infinite space, and therefore is it bringing its current consciousness, or as it expands, can it expand past its own awareness? In which case, would it be infantile? Would it be like it has Alzheimer's? Would it be like it has dementia? What would cause the universe to maybe in its own mind slow down and not quite grasp where it's going or what it's been doing, or it maybe be infantile? We were talking about like what that all looks like, but I like your example of you experience things where you, like, on one hand you look back. I want to ask you a question about this, because when you say that sometimes yes, it is true. I will speak to you about things that I think I have a grasp on. Mm-hmm. And you'll be like, no, this is not how it is. And then maybe later, in your case, as you're bringing it up, that
yes, yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
And sometimes it's like, but again, based on the facts you have, based on the consciousness and where you're at in your life experience and what you do experience and what you interpret from whatever your experiences are, you're like, this is the color. It's black. It's white. It's this. It's whatever. It's round. It's whatever it is you've decided. And in the times, and I will tell you, in the times that I've maybe tried to explain it differently, or in the times that I have tried to expand how I think, so I've tried to say things in different ways.
Yeah.
But by experience and
this is so fun to watch.
I'm treading carefully, everyone.
So careful right now.
How this is not about whether or not you feel stupid. The question is, let's say in retrospect, two different things. One, there's a question and a place that I want you to speak from here. One is, in retrospect, for some of the things where you're going, oh, I get what he was saying, or I can see it from this point now. I mean, I can think of a few things that you've said. Would there have been a way for me to have spoken it originally that you would have heard it?
That's a really good question. And I would probably say, if in the moment you were able, if in the moment you recognized that I wasn't comprehending, or it wasn't sinking in, or you know what I mean? That I wasn't there with you on the same page. If in that moment you recognized it and you said, and you maybe we have some sort of like phrase and you just say, yeah, well, maybe, not like you're an idiot and you're not with me. So let's try again. Which everyone should know. I'd never say that. But I would never say that. Or even think it. Like you would never even think that. No, of course not. But anyways, like if you were to say something like, I don't know, maybe I don't know that I'm explaining it well, let me try a different way. Or, I mean, if you were to point it out that I wasn't with you on it and say, like, I don't think that you're understanding what I'm saying, or maybe I'm not explaining it well, or, whatever, until we get there, if you point it out, like, I think that it would be okay. But I don't know that there is in the moment without pointing that out, without saying, hey, I don't think that we're on the same page here, or I don't think that or whatever. Without pointing it out or bringing it to my attention, then I wouldn't look for it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't look for it. So I don't know that continuing to rephrase it is going to make me stop in my mind and rethink it. But I think if you were to bring to my attention that I need to stop in my mind and rethink it, then I think I would.
Okay. So here's a mind-blowing thing for future reference for everyone later. We'll just denote it now because it's recorded for infinity. Okay. I would then take that statement that you just made, my experience, and I think this is universal. I think this is going to I'm going to relate it to the universe in a minute. But for now, the one thing that I think is super important is that when you're at a point in your consciousness, I don't think it's possible to tell anyone without that. So the fast forward part is the universe has to get so far ahead of itself in order to understand where it came to.
There has to be self-awareness.
Right. So in the case of telling you hey, recently you've actually made the statement hey, I think you might see something I don't, but I don't see that. That might be that.
That was 2 days ago.
For the sake of everyone listening or watching.
I'm asking because is this the conversation you're referring to?
Well, it's a good example. That's a good example.
Okay.
Where you're you might see something consciously that I don't, and I don't see it. Here's what I'm going to say to you now, which might be mind blowing. And I never thought of it since you just thought of it, is that here's what I would say, whether it's that specific point, that specific conversation, I would very much tell you to take all the times that I've ever maybe have made that sort of suggestion and relate it to what you just said, which was, hey, I don't think I'm explaining this correctly, or I think I have a thought. And the thing that I've learned.
Can I just, because this kind of goes back to, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but this to piggyback on what you're saying right now in this moment.
Sure.
I don't want to lose this because this is backed by science, basically.
Which is?
So one of the, and we were gonna get to this kind of down the thing, but so we're looking at these different theories, right? Scientific theories that are about consciousness. So there's one called the Integrated Information Theory, ITT, introduced in 2004.
Right.
By Giulio Tononi.
Okay.
I could have butchered that, not sure. And his core idea is that consciousness corresponds to how much information a system can integrate into a unified whole. It's not just about having information, but about the system's ability to connect that information across many parts.
Okay.
And so I think that kind of goes back and relates from a scientific perspective to what you're saying, and that if we aren't a certain level of consciousness or if we have not reached a certain point of expansion, we can't comprehend the other information if we've not already connected the dots. And the reason why I agree with this is because I've lived it. Because when I first started waking up in 2013, and I was listening to Ram Dass and Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna and a lot of these really great thinkers, right? I was listening to a lot of these things, and a lot of their lectures and ideas and theories and things just sailed right by me. I mean, it was literally to the point that it was like they were speaking another language.
Yeah.
So when, a lot of people start with a lot of the same things when we wake up, like Wayne Dyer and Deep Talk and all that, right?
Yeah.
So we're digging into all that stuff, and then I kind of segue over into some really deep thinkers.
Guys. Yeah.
And all of this is sailing right by me, and I'm just I have no idea what they're talking about, but it sounds really cool. I feel like eventually maybe one day it'll resonate, but it just was sailing right by. I couldn't comprehend it. It was like speaking a different language or listening to a different language.
But you like the sound of the beat.
But yes, the beat was great, right? It felt really good.
Yeah.
and I would pick up bits and pieces from it, but just not the whole. Okay. And so fast forward 10 years, and I can easily understand these ideas. And so I feel like, so this theory, this integrated information theory, as scientific and not scientific, but as computer programming, as holographic as it kind of portrays the world, or like we're a program, we're just one big program, right? And so it kind of portrays that idea as like that's what reality is, you know? But really that is what it feels like. Is like we can't, like I could not comprehend and understand these ideas. I was not expanded enough. So it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know? Do you expand first and then understand, or understand to expand? You know, like how do you, or maybe the two go hand in hand and it's just a feedback loop.
So this is fun. We're having a conversation where you're also helping validate what I'm trying to make a point on. This is, and you're also,
you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Well, so here's the interesting thing. It's like, so for instance, it's like there are many, many times, and you need to get credit for this. There are many, many times where you see things I don't. But in the case of what we're discussing right now, what I think I'm trying to say is that for the times that I've been trying to explain some things, I would say, hey, I don't think I'm communicating it well, but these things I know are true, and I know they're real. But your experience, I think part of it is in relation to well, it doesn't have to be related to the consciousness of the universe, but you, when you do comprehend a fact, this is maybe would help. Maybe this would help. Is that we joked about this climbing. We've talked about this on the show, but like you will live and die on the sword of what you know. It doesn't matter. It's like, if this is as far as you know, it's like apricots are good for 3 days. I think they're good for a week. No, they're not. You know, you're done. It's like you just like, which is on one hand a great trait. It's like you'll stand by what you know. On the other hand, there is like with.
Are you telling me right now that I'm not open-minded?
No, you're totally open-minded, but it's like if you can absorb like where you are in your process. Like when you say, I don't think it's bad that I think it's really, really genuine and honest. That it's super sweet and nice and great that you said,
stop doing all of the things. You're over complimenting. What are you doing?
No, when you say,
for anybody that's listening, this is what he does when he's getting ready to insult. He'll over compliment.
Oh boy.
Like, by the way, you suck at comprehension.
No, you've already stated you feel stupid months later, and I'm trying to detract you from that. I don't think that's, if you feel like oh wait, that was true. I think that's really humble for you to be able to go, oh, he was right about this. It's not about me being right. It's about, if I've been able to make an observation.
Where are we going with it?
Yeah.
Is this an attack of my character? Are we going to continue to do that? Or where are we going with this?
That's literally the opposite. I think just like the universe, when you're trying to raise your consciousness, I think it would be good. It's like, even if you could speak to it, say, hey, I think I'm miscommunicating about this, that, or the other, but I think you're missing, or I have some insight that I think is, these are some facts you're not taking into account or whatever. And you're like months later going, oh, oop. Maybe even if I could start with, hey, time out. I'm communicating about something that's wrong. But here's this other way to look at it. I don't know if there's any way until you're ready to look at anything until you've lived to a certain point, or.
So are you saying this me personally or people in general is what I'm asking? Like, is this me personally or just me? Or like, are you saying that generally people, this is how people function in regards to
no, in your example of saying, hey, sometimes you realize things months and.
This is going, I'm so sorry everyone, but my outline's going to go dead. I need to grab my computer charger.
Okay. Yeah. So the idea, what are we?
I gotta get my charger.
So basically, in short, the universe is doing the same thing. I think it's always consciously moving forward. I just don't think that it's doing it
Sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I don't think that it's about whether or not you comprehend something months later or days later or anything else. It's just simply the universe deciding, depending on a particular point or anything else, as it comprehends something. I'm saying that I don't think you can comprehend something sooner than you
are prepared to do it.
Right. And the pieces that
isn't that that's like asking a 5-year-old to understand quantum physics? I mean, the theory would be the same. Like, before someone is experienced, mature, and ready in their own way and right to absorb and understand something, it's like you've got people on the planet who just are NPCs walking around like sleepy sheep, just doing the job, whatever it is they're doing. And we all know those people who don't question reality. They don't wake up and question themselves. They're not into personal growth. They're waking up and they're going to work and they're doing a job and they're coming home and they're sitting on the couch and they're drinking Coors and they're watching football or bull ride. And no offense to anybody who's doing that, but this is like a repetitive thing. You know what I mean? It's like they just get up every day when the alarm goes off, they put their boots on, they go to work, they do the job, they come home, they drink the beer, they watch the games, they go to sleep. They don't question where they come from. They don't question who they are. They don't question the bigger things in life. They don't question what consciousness is, why they think and feel and believe and all of the things. They don't do that. They're like robots. You've got those people. And then you've got other people. You have people that do question. And then I think that in between one extreme and another, you've got some sprinkled in that have a feeling that there's something bigger, that there's something more, that there's, whatever. But they don't really know where to start. They don't know how to wake up. They don't know how to do the things. They're not that expanded. And so I don't know if this is an innate thing that we're born with, or it's through life experience that we expand. I think it's a little bit of both. But when you look at siblings that grow up in the same home with the same parents and have very similar experiences, and they're very different. One's an NPC and one's completely awake. Is that life experience, or is that are those innate characteristics? And so you have to ask yourself, is it the person is it an innate thing in them? Is it something that are they born from previous experiences and lifetimes into a more expanded consciousness from birth? Because we've gone through the cycle of reincarnation or the soul evolution in previous lifetimes or parallel lives or whatever. So as we're expanding our soul and are we born into this life more expanded? And that's how, why some people seem to wake up and some don't. Some people seem to be more conscious and aware and expanded than others at certain points in their lives. But I do think that there are certain people on the planet that are born here just to participate in other people's soul expansions. And so I don't know that it's something that is, it's the question is it the chicken before the egg? Is it the consciousness that leads to the awareness of the consciousness, or is it the awareness of consciousness that, do you see does that make sense? I'm not wording that correctly.
Right. Well, it ties into what I was trying to get to is if the universe is ever expanding, right? But we're existing in what's already there. At what point, as we're aware of that connection within ourselves and collectively, when we are reaching out, and for those that are awake, right? When we're reaching out to this universe that we think is wise or is ancient or is omnipresent, or that there's entities or there's consciousness within it that is whole beyond our planet, beyond our universe, right? Beyond maybe our dimensions. When we reach out to it, where I wanted to go is there a point where we're reaching out to this universe? I think people can get an individual's journey. We could talk about ourselves and we can work out the mechanics of how we figure things out over time or over experience. But does the universe actually have like a really systemic problem of expanding so far, so fast, that at no point could we actually, as we're waking up and we're aware of it, is it actually less aware of us? That's one of my questions. Is it possible that it's
losing track
yeah,
of itself?
Yeah. Like it just is, I don't want to say infantile, but is it possible that there are moments where maybe a consciousness has evolved itself within the like a larger than individual consciousness, or a collective consciousness of a dimension or a society within the ether? Let's not even say universe. Let's just say everything's ether. So whether it's our universe or the multiverses or whatever, let's just assume that there is possibly a individual entities that are beyond the mind of an individual human. Or, like, I don't want to say God, I want to say or Vedic, or I'm not saying just a mind that is of, if when we, in our comprehension, we look at it and go, that person is like the size of a universe, that one person is like the size of a universe. But the ether, the source itself, is so quickly and vastly expanding that it just, maybe it's hyper intelligent, but what if it self feels like it's falling into infinity? Like
I don't understand why you continue to bring up these terrifying ideas.
sorry.
Why do you do that? Like, what is your obsession with just like the pits of hell, the universe being this terrifying idea? It's like every idea you have, I feel like, ends up being horrible and terrifying, and like the last thing anybody wants to think about being reality. Why is that where your head goes?
Okay, you're right. Let me go, because what I want is a solution. I want
but maybe you're trying to find a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, can you consider that? Like, can you consider that maybe we're not in some vortex, like black hole vortex of death, that we're just like going into like the pit of nothingness forever? Like, some black hell of
boy,
nothing?
that's not what I was trying to say.
That's what, like, ultimately, when I think about the universe, like, not being in control of itself, because that's basically saying God doesn't have control over its own creation. So it's like, if it doesn't have control over its own creation, it's not necessarily about control, but it's about intelligence, awareness, consciousness. If we as a race on the planet are as conscious as we can possibly be, could you imagine the consciousness of God itself? And like, if it's that conscious of itself, how could it possibly lose itself? Because if it loses itself, then here, what are we even doing? What's the point of existence if it loses itself? Then it loses its purpose. It loses its goal. It loses all of the things. If it loses track of us, then it's lost track of itself. It doesn't, then it's like, then it would be like you just doing the Fitbit on the corner down the road, like just completely losing yourself.
I have an answer.
What? That's a terrifying thought. So before you share your answer, why do you always take us to a dark place when it comes to the origins of the universe?
It has to do with the solution side of it, but in the idea of it, I think that when we were created, I think there are these times where consciousness, universal consciousness, catches up. Mm-hmm. There are these times where there's this purity and there's this clarity within itself. And then I don't think we're happenstance. I don't think we just like randomly happen. I think there was a will to it, a goodness to it. So there is that. And what I've been pondering is, because it hurts me so much to think of how deeply we love, how beautiful things really are. And at the baseline, that has to be, I think, it takes no energy to love. It takes no energy to, what gets amplified when there's something beautiful in love, in all the things, in all creation. There is something so pure and true. And I think that we collectively are part of the solution to parenting back the universe. I think that maybe the solution, what I was getting to, is that I think that by us raising our collective ourselves and our collective consciousness, I think we have a chance at actually coming back at this, being the anchor in this ever expansion. We are solid. We are here. I think all the things in time and space that do exist, I think there's many things that are grounded in the truth of awareness and of love. And when, like in the way you said, if we were truly conscious, I think in consciousness comes the solution for that ever expanding universe, that whether it can control it or not. And again, I don't know if maybe it can control how fast it expands, in which case, good. On the other hand, it's like, it seems like I just can't believe that a conscious, good universe would just leave us to
our own devices. No, of course not, right?
Which hurts me even more to think that this great love of collective source would leave us to, I don't even want to speak to all the things that really disappoint me about life. And I think then that somehow we have a responsibility, and somehow I have this feeling that we can help truly make it eternally better.
So let's circle back to, what is consciousness?
Yeah.
So what is consciousness? So we have thought schools that believe, that it originates, or is in the past, is connected to the brain, right? That consciousness stems from the brain. And then we have other more native, or like a Mesoamerican cultures that believe that Egyptian. The Egyptians are the ones that thought that it originated from the heart. So their burial practices, they would remove the heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we know, or what we think, is that it's not connected to either. So what is it? If it's not connected, if it doesn't emanate from the brain, and it doesn't emanate from the heart, but consciousness is something that so this is the hard part to explain. It's something that we feel, like it's an awareness of self. It's a knowing, right? Being conscious is knowing that you are a human on the planet. It's knowing that you are yourself. There's it's like metacognition. You know what I mean? Consciousness is you just know. It's an awareness of self. So if you're conscious and it doesn't emanate from the brain or the heart, where does it come from? How does the energy exist? If we know, okay, so we know that thoughts create frequency, right? Its energy, creates waves in the ether.
Mm-hmm.
How's it all connected?
So, so we can dive into different, that is you asked the higher question. We could try to maybe take steps to it by starting with like religious philosophies on it. I don't think that's necessary. consciousness, would you agree or disagree that would you call consciousness life?
Ooh, I guess then there needs to be a more clear definition of consciousness, because is that a dog knows it's a dog, a tree knows it's a tree, there's all of these living things. Are they conscious? So there is, I'm going to scroll back up here.
While you're looking, I guess I can say what Andrew had to say, which is living in the light. Light is to always seek knowledge. Knowledge is the basis of one's perception. One's perception is the base of one's consciousness. That's definitely
one's perception is the basis of one's consciousness. A human wouldn't know it's human unless it's told it's a human. That's what I'm saying. Like, does a dog know that it's a dog?
No.
So then is it conscious? Is consciousness an awareness of yourself, or is it just living?
So you brought up a technical, so there's these different definitions, right? It's like, okay, well, based on you knowing a bunch of data, okay, you know a bunch of data and I know more. So, or I don't know more, whatever. I know what I know. And does that define my consciousness or not? I don't think what you know defines your consciousness. And then it's like, okay, well, what about experiences? Like if I just experience things, does that define my consciousness because I've experienced X, Y, and Z? Does that make me a more enlightened human being because I've experienced this, that, or the other? I don't think that's a component either. So then is it what I touch or what I smell and I can understand it, or I give it a name, or I give it a thought, or I give it a memory? So
is consciousness the basis of your five senses? Like if you can use your five senses, like that, as intended. Well, I mean, if you're born to you, whatever, you know what I mean? So we have these senses, and is that how we determine if we're conscious or not? Because we can use these senses and then process the input. Like, is that consciousness? Being able to process input from like sensory perception?
Okay, partially I want to, there's what you know and what you experience. Then what we know in our understanding of quantum mechanics and science in the last whatever decades, and we can get, and I know we're going to series into this and we'll get into some of the specifics of the sciences, but one of the things, we're watching Rewired. We're watching a series with Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? And how you can create, and just your mind can create, and they get into some of the sciences of it. This, I think, is relevant in the sense that does your own awareness then create references to say that, okay, well, you're conscious because you can create or because you can perceive, or is it that, in a godlike way, I can manifest something because I can conceive it, and within the ether, the universe, source, whatever, can create the mechanics of that? Can I, for instance, you may want a better car or something, like in a practical way. It's like you put out in the ether, you want to be a certain way in your human form or whatever, right? And so you don't get delivered a car, you get delivered a success in some pieces that allow you to afford the things that you want, like in a material way. It's like, so you don't get the car, but you get the
money to buy the car.
The money to buy the car. And then not only that, but you get you get some other means and level up. And then you're like, okay, well, I put something out into the ether, into source, and it exists now. And so does it, because I'm aware of that, or I'm aware of my needs and wants, or I'm even aware that if I put them out into the ethers.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. Like, I think that's more awareness than consciousness. I think there's a difference in awareness and consciousness. I think that we can be aware of consciousness. Like, I think that we can. I think the two are different. I don't
Really?
think that,
All
yeah,
right.
I don't think that they're the same, because I think that right, because I think consciousness, I feel like there are, I don't know, because there could be levels of awareness. Maybe the two are synonymous. I don't know. But I think that there's an expansion that happens, and I guess you can expand your awareness too. I don't know. Now I just feel like I'm getting caught up in terminology.
Right. Well, because the whole thing comes down to whether or not this dumb mic or the camera or the internet is aware. They're not conscious things.
Right.
They're just things.
Right.
We know that we've put electrodes on plants, and if you get really angry or happy around a plant, it knows. So we know that a living thing has sensation, awareness of things around it. So whether it can speak in a way that we understand or not, it can tell if you're angry, it can tell if you're happy, or if you're sad, it can tell. So there in itself is an awareness of another entity's feelings, consciousness. Are you like, actually, I've never asked you this, is consciousness like, when was the first time, actually, yeah, I have a couple questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, shoot.
All right. So when was the first time you ever thought about whether or not you were conscious?
That was a conscious question for myself.
Was it?
I don't think that I ever reached any point in my life where I asked that question. I mean, I feel like that would be like me asking, am I alive? So maybe that just answers the question, because I do think that there's never been a point that I've thought to myself, am I conscious? Like, I've always known I'm conscious. Now, how expanded that is has been variable throughout my existence on the planet.
But you've always just known you're conscious.
It's not something that's ever been in the forefront. I'm not like walking around at 4 years old thinking I'm a conscious being on the planet. I don't know that I'm conscious at 4 or 10 or 22. I wasn't thinking at 22 like I'm a conscious being.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of even consciousness wasn't something that ever I thought I even considered or thought about until I started waking up in 2013. Consciousness wasn't something. I was in the Matrix. I was playing the game, just getting up, doing the thing, like just trying to figure life out. I wasn't thinking about consciousness. I wasn't thinking about expanding it. I wasn't thinking about whether I was it or not,
All right.
The shift was not, it was just, I'm like, oh, okay. It's been this gradual, I don't know.
Do you think consciousness is separate though from, do you think that anything alive has some level of consciousness, right? Or no? Is there anything like single cell things? Do you think they're just like absolutely just devoid of actual, like it's alive? So
does a tree know that it's a tree?
Or is
that consciousness? Like, if a human knows that it's a human and a tree knows that it's a tree, is that consciousness? Or is it and so I was just looking for this deal in here. I cannot remember where I read it. It was somewhere in here, but it was talking about, if anything can be conscious, like anything that can, I want to find it. You talk for a second and let me find this.
Well, the thing about trees is a good example, because we know from The Secret Life of Trees, we know that book just summed it up well. It was a reference point for people if they want to listen or read it. And listen, hell, most people, they have audiobooks so much now. It's like I actually just said listen first. So the point about the book, one of the points in the book is that interspecies of trees, they can take care of each other. Like a tree can be cut down and trees in a forest can feed the stump and keep it alive. And species of trees, they don't even have to be the same species, but they are aware enough to alert each other to an incoming threat, whether it's insectal or fungal or bacterial. They can send out messages from one end of a forest to another. So the reality is that these trees are networked under the ground through their root systems, through fungal and bacterial networks, and they're aware. They're aware of dangers. So if they're aware of dangers, they should also be aware of things that make them sanguine, or things that make them happy, or things that make them basically just more than just survival. It's not a matter of whether or not they're being attacked. There has to be some level of happiness or completion as a creature. So it's not just a matter of, again, a threat. There has to be clearly some level of awareness to not just their surroundings, but again, they're aware of taking care of each other. They're aware of feeding each other. It's also known that these networks of, by the way, I'm not spoiling the book here, still get the book, but they feed each other. So they're feeding each other through these root networks. And that shows, I think, a high level of compassion and care. So that in itself, I think, would you call it consciousness? Would you not?
So under that theory that we were talking about earlier, the integrated information theory, where the idea behind it is consciousness corresponds to how much information a system can integrate into a unified whole. It's not just about having information, but about the system's ability to connect to that information across many parts. So this is a theory, right, introduced in 2004. And what's interesting to me is the way that it's delivered, or the way that it's presented, is like very machine-like.
Yeah, I thought so.
Right? It sounds very machine-like. Okay, so one of the implications in this theory suggests that consciousness isn't exclusive to humans. Any system with sufficient complexity and integration, whether biological, artificial, or even cosmic, could, in theory, be conscious. Okay, so all I hear when I read that is AI. All I hear is AI. And I just recently, anyways, that's a whole, you know what? We should do a show over consciousness and AI, because that's an entire episode on its own. Is it conscious? Can it be? If it can recognize itself, is that consciousness? Is consciousness, I'm human. I know I'm human. Like, I'm able to recognize that I'm human and act according to that recognition. And that makes me conscious. Because then if that is the case, if that remains true, then that's AI. If AI can recognize itself as AI, would it make it conscious? What is consciousness? Is it feelings? Is it being able to sense? Because isn't part of the reason why we're here for the evolution of our soul? Is that why we're here? Because if it's for the evolution of our soul, and that's the purpose of being here, to expand consciousness, to expand the collective.
I feel like I'm a downer every time you ask me questions and
I
stuff.
know, because you're searching in your brain right now, and what you have is negative, isn't it? You keep landing on death and destruction.
No, I don't. And I'm not trying to be, I'm trying to be positive about all the things. Hey,
Can I call you like negative Nick or something?
Oh my gosh.
Like, you can't be negative Nancy, like negative Nick. Negative what? What's an in man name?
First, okay, see, here's what I thought. Here, from the get-go, nothing, there's
Negative
nothing.
Norman.
First,
You're negative Norman.
Just take a drink.
Hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Introducing Negative Norman. What's his theory today? Probably negative.
I don't think, first off, this is super important. Nothing where you're at where anything is at is stupid. Nothing is stupid. It isn't.
Did I say that?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying from all of the like for the universe or for any of it to reach awareness, because it's not a negative point. What you had said is the purpose to see. Therein lies an added point that I don't think is behind consciousness. It's a question that we have, like the purpose of consciousness, the purpose of developing awareness or developing our like levels of things, right? We have this idea that there's a purpose, right? For instance, I'm trying to think of a stupid, dumb analogy, so I wasn't thinking anything negative. None of this is supposed to be negative. I'm trying to be super encouraging and positive, really, because I am.
Okay.
I'm not. No, you got that look.
I didn't say anything.
I'm not ever trying to be mean or.
But what if the universe is bad?
No, I don't think it means to be. Does not mean to be bad. I'm trying to come up with an analogy that would work. So, for instance, the paint on the wall behind me. Is it trying to be aware of itself or be something other than paint?
No, it's just being paint.
Okay. So here's what we do know. There is something about us, you, me, trees, probably even single cell organisms. There's something different about us. We're not paint. So there are things in this universe, whether it's the clothes, you could even argue like how far, like if it's organically honest, like our hair is real, the colors may or may not be, but like we're real, right? But our necklaces, our bracelets are, like
all aesthetics.
Yeah, that they're not trying to be anything,
right?
So we know for sure, I think there are things and there are living things that have the ability to decide things. So whether or not that involves consciousness, the idea that all living things aren't conscious or that there are some living things that are conscious, I don't, on one base level, whether they're more consciousness, whether with a certain number of brain cells or not, I don't think is the point, or is a point within, I think, the context of I'm trying to really narrow in the question, which is what is consciousness? And I think one of the seems like a simple point. One of them is I'm trying.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to talk about.
I know,
it's
but
hard.
I'm failing.
It's
and
okay. You're not failing. Stop saying that. You're not failing.
Yeah,
You're
but
doing fine.
Really from the get-go, I'm not trying to be a negative, and I'm trying to be encouraging, and I'm trying to be with you, and I'm not trying to be anything other than
what's happening?
I'm trying to be positive, all of it. I feel like you're like, boy, get to see us be real. It's like my whole thing from the get-go. And you were, and I think it was really great. And
what I think happened was, never mind. Go ahead.
What?
Nothing.
No, help me out here.
I think you had an hour of tech issues before you walked into the show, and now you're like, the universe sucks.
Okay, so I
this with bad energy, and you're like, the universe sucks. It's out to get us.
I was ultimately coming full. I take a long time to make points.
Yeah.
Really long time. And if we get in the weeds of any one little window, you're okay. To be fair, you are concise and you go fast. I go fast, but I dive and I just kind of float in some of these ideas, and I know that can be irritating.
Who's irritated?
Okay. I'm
Is anybody irritated? I'm not irritated. Are you projecting?
No, it's.
Are you irritated?
Evil universe. I'm just.
I can't. This is not your day.
Well, like I don't know what some of these things. I don't get it. Some of these things, like if you're like, when you're having technical difficulties, it's like I don't understand.
I know that was rough.
And I'm
just a reset. You're doing fine.
No, I think, and then it's like I think
come back to consciousness.
Okay, so
I believe you. I'm just giving you a hard time that the universe, guys. Welcome to real time partner conversation things.
Okay, so look,
you're doing a great job.
Okay,
and I don't think you're a negative Norman.
Here, I think there's something extremely powerful about the individual human.
Yeah,
I think that we have. Okay, so maybe everything that I'm saying is either dire or like super important, but okay. So fuck it. I'm just gonna say it. Language, everyone. I truly
earplugs. No, what is it? Earmuffs.
Yeah, for the kids listening, don't listen to the last somewhere between like a 15 hour, 15 and a half. So here's the thing. I think that we truly can amplify in the way that we're designed, in the way that we're conscious as human beings, just us as a species. I think that we have a way to not only individual, collectively, in the connections we make. I actually believe personally that there is a way that if we reactivate our individual and collective and paired consciousnesses, I believe we are an anchor and a light and a actual center to that ever expanding universe.
And I agree with you, but that doesn't answer the question. What is consciousness?
I think it's different if you're a tree network, if you're a bee, if you're in a beehive, or whether you're human, or whether you're a non-Neanderthal human being from a 500 million years ago. And does that consciousness stay in the ether? Do we, because part of consciousness is deciding, are we a manifestation of this broad pile of building blocks and we come as an individual for just a short amount of time? Or is
I think consciousness, I'm going to interrupt you here because I think consciousness is not one thing. And I don't think it's a static experience.
Okay.
I think it's an evolving experience. I think that what we consider like an expansion of consciousness is also the same as like an awakening. And I think that, you go through life, and this is all like real-time processing. So I may feel differently next Wednesday. But I think that consciousness is a, it's a constant evolution of growth. You are like, we're born and eventually we become conscious that we're, humans. Like we know that we're babies and we know that we're kids. We know we're parents. We start learning. We, see mirrors. We know that we are what we are, right? So then we're conscious of ourselves. And then we become conscious that our parents are our parents. We're conscious of certain things. Like we're conscious that our teachers are our teachers and whatever. And we go through life and we continue to expand and we continue to grow. But consciousness, I think, is not much different than wisdom. I think that consciousness and wisdom are very similar because I think that, I don't know, maybe the two are maybe they're similar. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. Because I think that as I see, it's not just about growing and no, it's not. Okay. So it's not just about growing and being wise. I just answered my own question. It's not just about growing and being wise, right? Because you can grow and you can be wiser, but that doesn't necessarily make you more conscious to reality. So I think that maybe there are different types of consciousness. Maybe there's a consciousness and awareness of yourself and a consciousness and awareness of reality. Of what is maybe the consciousness and awareness of yourself, or
I'm listening.
Yeah, I know. I'm just following the thread in my own head.
I don't want to interrupt it.
So what if because we can't, just like this ITT, whatever it was, IIT, whatever this one theory, scientific theory or method, here it is. Consciousness corresponds to how much information a system can integrate into a unified whole. It's not just about having information, but about the system's ability to connect the information across many paths. Okay, so when you're 5 years old and you're trying to make connections in the world, you can't make all of the connections that a 25-year-old can make. Or that a 45-year-old can make. And then a 45-year-old maybe can't, doesn't make the same connections that a 60 or an 85-year-old can make, but maybe those connections aren't because it's the brain's capacity to do it, but it's life experience and wisdom that allows you to make the connections. Okay, so as we evolve, we become more and more conscious, but maybe when we think about consciousness expansion, maybe we've gotten into a habit of relating it to maturity.
Okay, and therein lies one of the base questions. Does consciousness have anything to do with maturity, or you either are or you aren't? Now, what level you're aware of that is another question.
Well, okay, so there you go. So we've got maturity, we've got consciousness, and we've got awareness. Are the three synonymous? Are they completely separate subjects? So we have consciousness, maturity, and awareness. And so what I've experienced is as people mature,
okay,
that doesn't necessarily mean that their consciousness expands.
No.
I know a lot of very mature people that are not very self-aware. We're not very, and so that's another thing, is self-awareness, consciousness.
Yeah.
Is that are those two synonymous?
You answered this recently. You know how one of the things you talked about is there are people who are, we're always seeking answers.
Yeah.
But I'll just leave it at that for those because everyone's on a journey. Mm-hmm. But there are some people who perpetually stay in a certain phase.
Right.
And it's like, are you really different than you were the year? It's like you're doing the next thing, but you're at the beginning of the same thing you were at like 10 years ago because you like that feeling, you like that thing. So you're constantly doing the thing, but it's not, you're starting the same introductory course to whatever, and you're really loving it, but and you like that high, you like that feeling. And it's like, so you get stuck in a perpetual phase of, you're not actually learning anything new. You're just in this spirit of, I'm learning. It's like you feel like you're learning, or you feel like you're doing something. So it's like you end up perpetually in a hobby, or you turn what should be a development, an awareness of yourself into a hobby.
Right.
Of just it's kind of like watching your favorite movie.
And so you're not actually digesting, comprehending, and putting the information to use
and developing.
You're just learning it. You're reading it. You're in the habit of reading the information, but you're not actually putting it to use.
You're excited about the information.
Yeah. And you're like, this is great information.
Yeah.
But you're not really integrating it in your life. And that's integration is a big thing. It's like we can read, we can watch the documentaries, and we can run in the circles. We can drink all of the ayahuasca we want, but if we don't come home and integrate all of the knowledge and all of the things that we've learned and experienced, integration is really the epitome of growth.
And I think another piece of it, and I think this is super important, is that in part of the growth part of it is that you experience something, but it's like, it's not without developing further, to your point, even from the get-go. It's like, no matter how enlightened you are about anything, it's like, here's the other thing. It's like, if you don't not only do what you're saying, which is apply it, but then when you don't learn something new, you can't revisit the things you've learned and go, oh, wait, there's another side to it. There's another this, there's another that. I was like, holy crap, I want to realize that if I went to look at it or looked at this or lived through these things.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you have to keep, there's no benchmark. There's no like, well, I should have done 10 more things in this year or whatever. Yeah. That's not the point. But if you just don't always have the one answer. You don't always have like, well, I learned this thing 5 months ago, 5 years ago, 1 book ago, or 2 volumes ago, or 2 chapters ago. And it's like, okay. Yeah, that's where you were then and there. But it's like, okay, what are the other pieces? What else are you what else are you experiencing? They're guidelines.
Yeah.
They're not absolutes. They're guidelines.
Right.
That's the other thing. It's like nobody, me, the universe. I mean, there's different things in it that have different perspectives and they have different agendas.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's something not to forget.
No. And we don't need to go to just the Greek gods.
Yeah.
Every single entity besides yourself has an agenda.
I don't know, because even selves have agendas.
You're right.
But so we're actually out of time.
Oh yeah. Right.
So I do think that we're not done with this conversation, and we can pick up where we left off here next week. And then next week, we're also going to dive into the 4 phases of awakening. We're going to talk about what that looks like.
One of the things I want to add about this conversation, I think it's great that we started with this, but in your preparation and what we've done to prep for the show and what you've done, I actually think that this was a good start to what as far as us, the difficulty of deciding consciousness. I actually now, and I wouldn't have said this in real time until we've done this, I actually do think that it's relevant for us to go back and look at what you've pulled together about what have been the last few thousand years of philosophies on consciousness. I think we actually should stumble, and I think it was good that we did this, but I actually think now, all right, well,
did we just expand this 4-part series into an 8-part series? Because we can definitely divide like cultural ideas of consciousness into Egyptian and Mesoamerican and like Vedic ideas. And so like we can do whatever we want with it. If we want to expand it a little bit culturally next week, we could do that instead of diving into the 4 phases.
I don't want to put their interpretations as a guardrails to our conversation.
No, but it's good to consider alternative perspectives from multiple cultures when deciding what we think consciousness actually is, because that's literally the one that, like, there's a handful of things that we don't have figured out, right? Well, I mean, there's a lot of things we don't have figured out, but consciousness is one of those. It's like the human body is an experience of its own, and we have the brain, and we have the heart, and we have the lungs, and we have livers and kidneys, and all of these different organs and functions of the body, and we know how all of these things work, and all of the functions of the brain and the heart and the correlation between the two. But when it comes to consciousness and awareness, when it comes to that, it's so intangible, we cannot figure out where it comes from. We don't know. It doesn't come from the brain, it doesn't come from the heart. It just is. It's a thing. It's an experience. It's part of this experience of being human. Our consciousness is part of this experience of being human, but we don't know the origin of it. I mean, we cannot like put it under a microscope and see it, and then we start throwing in quantum mechanics and quantum physics and like just all of these different quantum ideas. And then it just gets even more complicated, and then it's like, is the cat alive or dead?
You just made me think of something I've never actually considered about all current philosophies of religion.
What's that?
That, and I think, and it's an importance that I've really, truly, humbly never thought of until you just spoke, which is, and again, it's not a justification, but in going back through these, whether it's Vedic or Christian or whatever the case is, that there have been truly billions of people that have lived with their consciousness tied and tethered to these different philosophies. And we can argue about, whether or not they were just willing to not question, or, we could dig into that. But the truth is that of these different systems, I think it's I don't think it's going backwards now that we've had this kind of discussion. I think this was better we did it this way, but I do think, not guardrails, but I think that in their experiences of those over time, over the last 5,000 years that we know of these written and or verbal experiences of consciousness of how they're looking at. I don't just think it's a deity thing, but now I'm thinking that maybe the truth in their truths they haven't, after so many eons, changed their minds. That sounds like an obvious point,
Yeah.
but I think there's something to their experience of their consciousness and then their lives spanning through all the things that an individual life
That
expands.
seems to be consistent. So maybe they know something we don't.
Which is why then we do just systematically go through each of the systems.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys.
All right.
So until next week.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, well, I think we can do the cultural thing or dive into the four faces. I don't know. We'll talk about it and go from there.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will.
Thanks for joining, guys, and we will see you next Wednesday, same time. Well, we say 8 o'clock, but probably like 8:05.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.